Hi everyone, welcome to a quick video for PSO2 New Genesis. Today's video is going to be mainly aimed at newer players to the game, and it's going to focus on all of the locations for Ryuker devices and region mags. So when you first start the game out, you'll be in a prologue section, which is in Aelio town. There are no Ryuker devices or anything in that area, so you need to get to the actual main story before you can actually get the Ryuker devices. Following that, we want to try and find as many Ryuker devices as possible because they're massively useful for you. So what Ryuker devices are these blue towers like the one behind me. What these do, they have several different functions. So when you access one, you can teleport from it, which is essentially PSO2 New Genesis' version of fast travel. You can cook food from it, you can access your storage, and you can also change blocks and things like that. You can also access photo room settings, which is for if you want to take screenshots and things like that. But the main purpose for them is for cooking quick food, so you don't have to go to the food counter every time, and for teleporting to other areas, like this. So you can see, you can teleport basically anywhere where there's a Ryuker device on the map, which is this icon here. Now, these icons won't appear on the map until you've actually discovered the Ryuker devices, and it's also the same for region mags. So region mags are these icons here. Region mags are mags that you can feed items to, and in return they'll give you a buff. So you can see this one gives you a 10% rare drop rate buff if you feed it, whereas this one over here gives you 5% attack power boost. So what I'm going to do is just quickly run through all the different locations and how to get to them. Obviously when you first start the game these won't be on your map, so you won't be able to reference them, but feel free to screenshot this so you can see where the locations are, but I will show you the easiest way of getting to all of them. So starting off in Aelio, which is the region I'm in now, when you first start, after you've done the prologue, you'll arrive in Central City, and in Central City, just near the west entrance, you'll notice the west entrance on the map, but also there's an NPC called Western. This is your first Ryuker device, so this is the one for Central City. Following that, if you go out of the west exit of Central City, and just run straight forward, you'll see straight in front of you, just on the hill, there's another Ryuker device up there. So the little note on them is that they won't be blue when you first see them. Before you've discovered them, the light on them will actually be yellow. So you want to look for a tower with a yellow light on top of it. They're only blue because I've already discovered them. So some Ryuker devices will also have this icon next to them as well. These terminals are used to initiate field races, which is essentially like time attack races you can do around an area. So this is the Ryuker for Halfana Plains West. So if you look on the map, this is the Ryuker here. There's also a cocoon right next to it as well. In Central Aelio, which is where I am at the moment, there's one other Ryuker device, which is Halfana Plains East. So to get to that one, the easiest way to get to that is if you go from Central City, and this time we'll look for the east exit. So you can just go straight through the central tower. Now this one, and again there's an NPC called Eastman. So all of the NPCs next to the exits are all named after the direction that they're next to. So, and if you run straight out, again you can see it straight ahead of you there. So this one over here is the Ryuker for Halfana Plains East. So from here, you might just have to kill these enemies because they're just going to get in the way otherwise. So this is the Halfana Plains East. So this one here. From here, if you more or less keep running due east, you actually run to the next Ryuker, which is your first combat zone, which is Vanford Laboratory. So if you go east from here and then just up this hill, you can see all these, you can see the tower in the distance. You'll also see some wreckage in the ground there. That's the sign for Vanford Laboratory. So again, you just keep running east. You just want to head towards all these ruined buildings. So you might be able to see it just in the distance there. So just over here in Vanth Laboratory is your Ryuker. It's right at the west of the site. So next up, next one to probably go to is Mount Magnus. So again, from Central City is probably the fastest way to get to it. And for this one, it doesn't really matter which exit you go out of, so I'd probably go out of west, and then you can just run south then. And you want to be looking on the map, so you're essentially running southeast. Just a little note on this, when you're around this area, keep an eye out because you'll quite often find alpha reactors around here, which you can sell for a bit of money. The only purpose of them is to sell for money, so you may as well collect them. Yes, I want to be a bit more east from here. I think there's another alpha reactor to get over here though, yeah. Yes, definitely pick those up when you see them. So you just want to head east. And you can see these like rocky outcrops is the start of Mount Magnus. But there is actually a path into it. So this sort of hilly section here. You just want to run up here. And they should take you into Mount Magnus. And the first Ryuker device is more or less just if you keep going straight up the hill. There's actually 2 Ryukers in Mount Magnus because it's such a big area. So your first one's just here. And this is your western Ryuker. The eastern one is essentially right up the top of the mountain. So if you just keep running east, and just climb wherever you can, basically. There are a lot of updrafters in the area, so they do make it a bit easier to climb to the top. When the game launched, there was only 1 Ryuker in Mount Magnus, but they added another one in a later update. Which is a good idea, really, because it is a really big area, so it was a bit of a pain to navigate before. Again, just using the updrafters wherever I can. You just want to be heading east, really. You might just be able to see the Ryuker in the distance over there, on the right hand side. You can see it just over that hill. So this is your eastern Ryuker for Mount Magnus. There are some areas you'll come to in the story, so you do come to Mount Magnus in story, but quite often what it'll do in story is it'll lock out the Ryuker so you won't be able to get them. So this is your eastern Ryuker. Next up, in South Aelio, there isn't a particularly easy way to get to this. I would say the best way is probably from Central City again. Actually, you may be able to go from Mount Magnus actually, so if you go from Mount Magnus west, I was trying to think of the easiest ways to go. Then just run. Just run back down this hill, which will take me out of Mount Magnus. And then if I look back around to the west, there was another exit, which I think takes you to South Aelio. So you more or less just hug the wall, really. And eventually you'll see an opening that has different colour trees in it. And that's your sign it's South Aelio, because South Aelio looks completely different. So this is your sort of your visual cue for the entrance to South Aelio. So just follow this through. There are 2 Ryukers in this area. So you might be able to see just one in the distance over there. So that is the Ryuker for Balflow Falls. You can basically just glide over and just land on one of these platforms. And this is your Ryuker for Balflow Falls. The next one is for Mount Picoult, which is if you want to basically keep running east. It can be a little bit awkward to navigate in South Aelio because the way it's designed, it's a lot of cliff faces. But essentially you want to keep running east until you start getting to this more rocky area, rather than the sort of the colourful cherry blossom area. This is still treated as South Aelio, it's just a different sector. So this is like the outskirts of Mount Picoult. And once you get in this area, you basically just want to follow the path. You'll see a tower in the distance. That's a good thing to aim for because the Ryuker is quite near that. So just continue to follow the path round. And that'll bring you to the actual tower. And then if you just run southeast from the tower. Sorry, southwest from the tower, sorry. And over this hill, it'll bring you straight to the Ryuker. Which is just here. So that's the one for Mount Picoult. Which on the map is just it's right down the bottom down here. So that's South Aelio covered. Next is West Aelio. So West Aelio, the best way to get into it is possibly from Halfana Plains west. So from Halfana west, you basically just want to keep going west as much as possible. Again, there's a few more alpha reactors there, but I'll come back for those later. So again, use the updrafters to try and get over the mountain. It just makes navigating a lot easier. And this should bring you into West Aelio. Now in West Aelio there's a couple of Ryukers. So if I just drop down here. So in West Aelio, when you enter, you'll be just west of Mount Mahinapali. So there are 3 Ryukers in West Aelio. You've got Aelio Town Ruins, Lackow Coast, and Crino Cliffs. So for West, the easiest one to get to from here is probably Aelio Town. So essentially you're running southwest once you went to West Aelio. So Aelio Town Ruins is where you start the game in the prologue. So you basically want to be looking for the coastline, because if you remember, Aelio Town was on the coast. So just keep heading towards the sea, and eventually you will come across the Ryuker on the cliff face. So this is the Aelio Town Ruins Ryuker. You can see if you look over the cliff and down the bottom, you can see Aelio Town, or what's left of it, is down there. Next up is Lackow Coast. For Lackow Coast, essentially just follow the coastline. just head north basically along the coast. So again, just use the updrafters when you can, just to try and make the navigation a bit easier. And you might be able to see it just through the trees over here. Again, we've got the coastline over this way. So again, just following the coast. And this is your Ryuker for Lackow Coast. So this is, on the map, is just here. Now from here, there's actually a Region Mag really nearby. I guess I'll quickly show you that now actually. So that there is a Region Mag literally from the Ryuker. If you jump up this cliff and then take this updrafter, and there's your Region Mag. So this is what the Region Mags look like, and you can basically feed items to them and they'll give you a buff. So for the next Ryuker, which is Crino Cliffs, you want to basically, again, just follow the coast, but head north again. This one's a little bit of a run. It also seems like one of the most pointless Ryukers in the game. Just a little note to be aware of if you are new to the game and you're looking for Ryuker devices. If it does start getting a weather condition like this where there's a thunderstorm or other inclement weather, quite often you'll encounter Gigantics, which are these really, really big buff enemies. You probably don't want to be dealing with those early on in the game. So they show up on the map as like a purple target. So just avoid those if you're new to the game, because they're normally really high level. So they only appear when there's inclement weather. So in Aelio, it's whenever there's a thunderstorm. And the thunderstorms, if you're not sure if it is a thunderstorm, because you can't always see the thunder that well, the way to tell is look at the rain direction. So if it's just raining, the rain will come down vertically, but if it's a storm, it will come down at an angle like this. So you can see on them, if you look at my map at the moment, at the south of my map, there's a purple icon, which is Gigantics. Now, at my level, I could probably fight it, but that's not the purpose of this video. So again, just continue to follow the coast. Get to this really, really rocky part. And you get this like step structure. So once you get to this, you know you're going the right way. Just follow this up. And more or less just at the top of it, there's another Ryuker device, which is the Crino Cliffs Ryuker. So that's up here. Next one is in North Aelio, which is Altalani Plateau. So from here, just head northeast. Again, there's a lot of updrafters in the area, so use them whenever you can. It just makes traversing the environment a lot easier. Just be aware there are veteran bosses as well. And for me, they're fairly low level, so I could probably kill them easily, but I've got no interest in fighting them. So follow this over into this area. So just head northeast from the last Ryuker. That'll take you into North Aelio. And if you more or less drop down straight away, there's a Ryuker more or less as soon as you come in, which is the Altalani Plateau. So that is just here. Now from Altalani, if you turn back on yourself 180 degrees, there's a path that leads down. Again, be careful around here because you do often get Gigantics in this area. So just follow the path. And if you actually follow this straight down, you'll come straight to the Region Mag. So you can see it just here is the next region mag. Now from here, there is a Ryuker in this area, which is the Halfana wetlands. So you want to run more or less southeast from the region mag. So it'll take you straight over the actual wetlands. If you're very, very low level, just be a little bit careful here because there is bosses and things in the wetlands. They're only about level 12, but if you're very, very low level, you might find it a bit difficult. So just be careful. You can always run around if you need to. So straight over the other side is the Ryuker device for Halfana wetlands. And from here, the next ones to go to are a little bit more awkward to get to, so you probably want to warp to Halfana East next. So from Halfana East, you essentially want to run due north, and you'll come to a river. I appreciate things might not be too easy to see at the moment because of the storm, but unfortunately can't do much about that. So once you get to this river, just run straight over it, and you'll come into Resol Forest. A Resol Forest is a combat area. There's only one Ryuker in here, and it's just to the southwest of the area. So just run kind of northwest as soon as you come in. If you're new to the game, the difference between a combat area and an exploration area is exploration areas can hold up to 32 players, and they'll have like enemies will still be in them, but they'll be spread out more. Whereas combat areas tend to have clusters of enemies and can take 8 people. So this is your Ryuker device for Resol Forest. Now from here, basically just run due east. Again, just be aware it's a combat area, so there is big groups of enemies. The level of the enemies in the combat zones will depend on what rank you're up to. So for me, they're all level 60. So just keep running east, and eventually you'll come into Halfia Lake. We're not quite in there yet. This guy fighting a boss there, but it's only level 15, so I'm not going to help out because I would just murder it. So you'll come into Halfia Lake. And once you get in, there's this cocoon as soon as you come in. If you go directly north from the cocoon, there's a updrafter. And that will take you straight to the Ryuker device. So that's the Ryuker for Halfia Lake. This is quite an important one to get because this is essentially what will bring you to Stia later on. So that's all of the Ryuker devices covered for Aelio. There's one more region mag as well, which is the one in South Aelio. So the one in South Aelio is probably easiest to get once you've got the Mount Pickle Ryuker. There are also cocoons and towers, which are trials that you do to earn skill points. They won't appear on the maps either, but I'll probably save them for a separate video. So once you've got to the Mount Pickle Ryuker, you just want to run west from it, and just follow the path. And eventually the scenery will change back to the Sakura Blossom scenery. So like this. And you just have a big hill, just go straight up to the top of the hill. There's normally enemies up at the top of it quite often, but they're not really a big deal. Actually, isn't this time, actually. So once you get right to the top of the hill, that's your last region mag for Aelio. So most regions have 3 region mags, usually. So in Aelio, you've got one in South Aelio, just west of Mount Pickles. You've got the one just next to, in West Aelio, next to Lackow Coast. And then one on Halfana Wetlands. Rude. Those guys are like the Bullfangos of PSO2. So that's all of your devices and mags for Aelio. So hopefully that was useful. I will do other videos that cover the other regions as well, but for people who are just starting with the game, that's just a quick rundown of where all of your Ryuker devices and region mags are for the Aelio region. So again, it's the same kind of thing in other areas, so again, you've got various Ryuker devices, region mags, and it's the same for every single area. It's just a case of trying to find them when you get into each new region, but I will do other videos that cover all the locations. So that's the video for Aelio. I'm just going to run away from that region map because the noise it's making is really annoying. So yeah, so the ones in Aelio are fairly easy to find, really. The only difficulty is that some of them are in quite rocky cliff areas that are a bit awkward to navigate sometimes, but on the whole, they're fairly easy to find. So in the next video, I'll probably cover all of the region mags and Ryuker devices for Retem, and then we'll cover Kvaris and Stia in later videos as well. So for the meantime, thanks for watching, guys. Any questions at all, just leave them in the comments below and I'll try and answer what I can. But yeah, in the meantime, thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.